Physique.
All right, I'm going to start us out in 3, 2, 1. What's up, guys? I am here with the man himself, Mike O'Hearn. What's up, bro?
You, Captain.
Chilling, man.
You look great, kid.
Making some gains, bro. I feel like I'm in jail.
So, question for you. Right off the bat, I know you got a home gym, so you're getting some stuff in. What are you doing different on your nutrition?
Eating as much I've been eating when I had a real gym. So I think that's the number one thing. Everyone's like, yo, I'm going to lose my gains. Listen, the only way you're going to lose your gains is if you stop eating and training. That's the only way.
Question for you then. Go deeper on that one. Ready for a second? Will you lose your gains if you eat right but don't train?
What will happen?
What will happen?
If you eat right or don't train.
If you eat right,
dude.
You think?
You have to train, man. Yeah, at least a little something.
I'm a big believer on that you can maintain a lot of the stuff you have off of great nutrition.
Yeah.
A majority, and I think that society freaks out. And I only say that because I don't say it because I see what happens in the fitness world, but I see what happens in the athletic world. So the guys I see that, and no disrespect to the fitness guys at all, but when I see these pro football players take a good 2 to 3 weeks off, they eat healthy, they come back the exact same. I live with a freak, Mona. Mona trains barely 3 times a week, and she eats she eats more than I do, and she keeps all of her gains.
Well, let me ask you this. When you're competing for a show, what do? Do you train all the way up until a show, or do you like to take a couple days of rest? Because I always look better when I train all the way up.
Okay.
I got the muscle hardness. So I've tried taking two days to recover and, put my feet up and just carb up. But my body responds the more I train, man.
Well, you've been doing it long enough to where you know exactly what, and yours is, there's a difference between that 1% and you're that 1%, it's that one little fine-tuned thing that you do different than the 7.5 billion people that makes you the most elite. So if it's not taking 2 days off before the show and carbon up relative to training into the show, I mean, how much of that is mental that makes you even feel better that you're doing it? And so that's another reason why you're focused like that, or you just know your body so well that works for you. Yeah.
Well, look at guys like Dexter. I know Dexter eats 1 or 2 meals going into his show. So that's the rumor, he'll actually respond better by not eating a bunch. But so that's what I hear, man. But anyways, dude, how is everything? I know, bro. I've been seeing you do interviews for months, people asking you the same damn questions. Always asking you the same questions. So I want to get in here.
Go, get nasty.
Bro, everyone knows you have 500 covers, bro. Everybody knows. Everyone knows you're a big dog guy. We know you're a big dog guy. But I want to tell you, I have a confession to make. Every time I'm speaking to a big company for an endorsement or sponsorship, they always ask me what my goal is. I always throw you in. I'm like, listen, I want to be the Mike O'Hearn of this shit. I want to be around when I'm 30, be relevant. When I'm 40, be relevant. When I'm 50, be relevant. When I'm 60, 70, 80, I want to be that guy, dude. So hats off to you, man. I just had to throw you that accolade, bro. You're the only one who's done it. Really, you only are, man.
I truly appreciate that, especially from the small percentage of people that really just give everything to their one passion like you have. And I appreciate that because I know what you understand the sacrifice and what it takes to do what we do and to just not just create a physique, but to keep the physique. I think the majority of society gets caught up in too much of the other stuff that people talk about, which I don't even talk about. What they don't talk about is the aspect of, I was on stage in 1983 and it's the year 2020 and I'm still on the magazine covers. So, we're talking just on stage 37 years. but lifting 41 years and loving it. And the aspects that I'm most proud of is the fact that I've been able to squat over 500 pounds for 35 years consistent. I haven't been injured. I get a tussle with the strongest men in the world in the gym and beat them on some exercises and lose on some other ones, but at least get into the battle and get into a dogfight. Yeah. And that's something that I was born a gladiator, and I just love this stuff. And just like you said, or I said, that you train up to the show because that appeases you, that you like that. And it does something to you mentally that makes you even better relative to kicking back and taking a couple of days off. And I think there's just something inbred into me that I wake up every morning and I need a battle.
Yeah. Well, dude, there's only 365 days in a year, man. You're taking a couple rest days a week. You know, that's already 50, 100 days, something, man. So it leaves you, 200 days to train? So that's why I think it is mental, man. Just knowing I left no stone unturned, as you do, you know. And I know you wake up at like 4 a.m. and you go to the gym super early. That must be a mental thing also, you know, while everyone's sleeping, you're out there grinding. How is Gold's Gym Venice at 4 a.m., bro?
4 a.m. Gold's Gym Venice is epic because it's kind of like it's my house right then. I don't play music. I don't let the music come on until 6:30, till I'm done. I love that time because everybody that's there are absolute savages. I don't care if it's the 65-year-old guy there and he's training at 4 a.m. It's because he's a multi-millionaire businessman on architect and he's got to get out of there by 5 because he's a baller. There's a different breed at 4 a.m. Yeah, we're odd cats, we're crazy, but we love what we do. And I think you and I both understand that training is only foundation work. That isn't our career. That's only 2 hours a day or whatever it is that we train. It's everything we do outside of that. And for me, if I can get it in without interruptions and just with the crew and blast it and then get onto the work day, I'm good. Because we'll work from Mona's a savage, my girl, but we'll work from 6:30 till 8 o'clock, 7 days a week. But we love it, so it's not work.
Yeah, no, dude. Hell, you have to love it. To get to this level, man, you can't do it at this level without loving it. Like, sure, you could do a bodybuilding show. You might win, you know, if you don't love what you're doing. But, man, when you love what you're doing and you're waking up every day and doing it, that makes all the damn difference, dude. All the damn difference.
Let me interrupt you on one thing because I know the answer to this, but I want your fans to hear this and my fans to hear this when you say this. When you get up in the morning to train or whenever you do train, do you do it because you have to or do you do it because you love it?
Oh, dude, I love it, dude. It's like brushing my teeth. I have to brush my teeth, man, the same way I train. It's like my day. My wife knows when I have a bad workout, like if I have a chip on my shoulder, she knows it's because I didn't have a good training session. Like my day is ruined. If I don't have a good training session, Mike, I'm like the worst person to be around. I must train. So
people ask me, how am I consistent? And not just consistent for a show or a year, but how am I consistent for 40 years? And it's because of what you just said. It's in our blood. We don't train because we have to. We don't train to be famous. We don't train to, yes, we want to win shows, but that's not the underlining root of why we train. We train because we need it in ourselves and that battle within ourselves. And I think you agree with me that it's not motivation, it's passion.
Yeah, it's total passion, bro. Motivation comes and goes, man. Passion's what's important. I mean, I remember I was doing this. I was placing runner-up at the Mr. Olympia 2 years in a row and working a full-time job, you know? So there was no real money. Like, sure, there was contracts, you know, there really was. But there wasn't any money for me. I was doing this. It was taking money out of my pocket, and I was still doing it, you know, sleeping 5 hours a night, you know, taking a nap in Bev Francis Powerhouse in the parking lot in between training and cardio because I didn't have time to go home. I love this, man. I love this, dude.
I didn't know that, and I think that's the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah, man. I used to drive from Long Island to Brooklyn, work 9 to 5 as a property manager in real estate, and still like winning these shows. And sometimes, you know, I'd get stopped in the street in front of my colleagues. And I'm like, what the hell? How's that guy know you? I'm like, it's a long story. You know, there'll be bodybuilding fans and stuff. So, yeah, man.
That's the coolest thing.
I think actually having a full-time job actually grounded, like it made me grounded as an individual, you know, where people, they get the big contract, their head gets a little big. And it grounded me a lot. It let me know that, you know, you could be one of the best in the world and you could still work, you know, because I love bodybuilding, but it doesn't define me as a human. What defines me as a human is my character, you know, my hard work, the way I treat my friends and my family. That's really like what defines me. But man, bodybuilding to me is, you know, it helped me become who I was. But I'm sure it's similar for you, Mike. When you were starting out, I know you've been training and doing shows since, I don't know, 14 years old. You started at 8 or 9, won your first show at 14. What was your first contract? Do you remember like the first time someone's like, hey, you can make money off this?
Dude, I got probably one of the greatest stories I was walking through, I was competing. I was doing teenage nationals, and I was a monster of a child. By 15, I was 272 pounds. So 14, I walked on stage after training for 5 years, and I walked on stage at 176 pounds at 14, and I beat all these 20-year-olds. So I started getting some notoriety and stuff in newspapers. By 17, my dad had me stop competing against the teenagers, and he says, you're only competing against the men from here on. So I started I was powerlifting at the time as well. And I was doing martial arts and I was bodybuilding, and I would only compete against the men. His point was, I've already beat the kids. I'm going to have to go against the men sooner or later. And if this is something I seriously want to do, step it up, start going against the men. And then I started winning men's shows. As the same day, I would actually compete in the teenager again, and I'd win both. So I was competing against the men in powerlifting as well. And then I started to get somewhat of a name, and then the magazines started putting me in the magazines. In 1987, I was in Ironman, was the first time. Joe Weider got wind of me, and he called me up, flew me down to California, and I met with Joe. And then he flew me down to Cabo San Lucas to shoot magazines. And I'm like, this is fun. Holy shnikes. I'm 18 now, almost 19. I shoot the magazine. I go back home months and months later, because you remember back in the day when the magazine, you shoot a magazine cover, and it probably wouldn't come out for 6 months to a year. And the articles as well, and so on. So a year later, this magazine comes out, Muscle and Fitness, and I'm on the cover. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. And I'm still up in Washington. Yeah. And then the next month comes out, and I'm on the cover again. And I'm like, holy shnikes, this is crazy. And then Joe Weider called and said, son, you're moving to California. Come down here. I'm going to set you up, put you under contract, and you're going to train at Gold's Gym Venice. And that's how it didn't begin that way, but that's how the next level started. It was just the hustle and bustle of, the old school winning shows and powerlifting and winning the powerlifting meets to get a name. Because social media today, you don't need to do that relative to the old school where you needed the magazines. I had to get the magazines. I had to get the TV shows to make a name for myself. And so that's how it started. Joe Weider launched my career, flew me down. I felt honored because he flew somebody else over here back in the day. I forgot his name, but he's really famous.
Arnold, baby. Arnold, Franco, all of them.
Right?
Yeah, dude.
So I felt really honored. And
what about when you picked up the phone call? Like, how was that feeling? Do you remember? Like, oh my God, Joe Weider, what?
Joe had such a unique voice.
Yeah.
And if anybody knows Joe was a guy's guy. And so he was a kid his whole life. Yeah. And his personality was a kid. He liked to talk smack. He would joke around. He would tease guys and, oh, your calves are terrible. Look at those things kind of guy. He would tease people. And he'd call up and he was just matter of fact. He's like, I love you. You're great. We're going to get you down here, but you're moving. Yeah. So I need you here. Tell your parents you're and I'm sitting there just like, wow, Joe Weider. it seems surreal.
Yeah.
And that's how the career really took to the next level.
Yeah. How old were you when you flew down there to California?
I was doing the shoots at 19 and I was down in California by 20.
Nice, dude. What a life, huh?
Yeah.
What a life, dude.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on leaving?
You know what? It was cool because I come from a huge family of 10 brothers and sisters. And my dad was a bodybuilder and football player back in the day. And my mom was a martial artist. And it was funny because when I said, hey, guys, to my training partners at that time, I said, hey, let's all move down to California and make this great career like Barry DeMay and Gary Stridham and Lee Haney. Let's do it. And they're like, yes, we're all going. 4 of my buddies, and we're all going to pack up the U-Haul. We made a date on moving and everything. And then that date came, and I packed up the U-Haul, and none of the guys, all the guys called me that day and said, hey, I'm not going. And my dad came into my room. He says, get out.
Good.
Here.
Good.
Like, well, yeah, but I'm by myself. He goes, you're going to be. This is you. You wait for these guys, you got no career. You got no backup plan. This is what you wanted to do. You're out. Mm-hmm. Be out of here before mom gets home. Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He didn't want mom to come home and say, no, stay or anything. He just said, get going. And I jumped in the U-Haul, had my trucks on the back end of it. And I had my pictures of Arnold Schwarzenegger plastered all over the inside of my truck. And I drove down to California and the career started.
Dude, that's awesome, man. So you've probably seen Arnold hundreds and hundreds of times, and some of these other legends, Flex Wheeler probably all the time, you know, all these guys, Kevin LeBron in their heyday and stuff, man. Who was, when you were watching these guys train, who was the one guy that stood out the most just in terms of workout intensity or, you know, just the way they looked? Can you name a couple of guys? And
well, I was coming from a powerlifting gym because I had taken second in nationals in powerlifting. So my strength was ridiculous at that age. I couldn't beat a guy named Bull Stewart. For any powerlifter fans out there, Bull Stewart, I could not beat. Who's a savage of a lifter. So when I came from that gym to Gold's Gym, on the one aspect, I loved that everybody trained heavy. But their heavy was different than my heavy. So it was nice that I fit in at that age, lifting with the best of them. And my first training partner was Tom Plaz.
Ooh, wow. Damn,
you know.
Dude, that's crazy.
you know, that's jumping off into the deep end.
Oh, that's crazy, dude. How did that happen? How'd you get linked up with him?
Well, when you go into Gold's Gym and you start squatting 20 reps with 500, at that age, Tom's like looking over going, all right, let's see what else you got. And that's how it started, man. It was just, I talked about it earlier about the battle. So many of the old school guys did it for the battle and the friendship and what the battle does for you. It's a crazy thing when martial artists will understand this and stuff, but when you spar with a guy and you go to battle with him, on whatever aspect it is, there's a bond, a different kind of bond. It's a cool thing. Yeah. It's a cool thing. I don't know if I'm just a born gladiator and I love that or I'm just around psychos. But we trained together and those leg workouts were 3 hours long. There was no counting sets. There was no counting reps. It was more of whatever you get, I'm going to beat you. You know, you're training with, first of all, you're training with Tom Plaz. So you're training with a legend, a real legend. Not, you know what I mean? You know, somebody that's done everything. And so you're just trying to be at your very, very best on every single workout. You know, you're a 20-year-old kid, you're showing up early, you're leaving late, you know? And I came in with the utmost respect for all these guys because they gave me something to believe in. So he was like my first training partner. And then I trained with everybody from Dorian Yates back then, Lee Haney, Flex, Chris, so many guys, Paul Dillette, Kevin,
Paul Dillette,
who's one of the greatest guys. hung out with Flex a lot, Chris a lot. Got my ass kicked by Chris Cormier on PlayStation and Xbox way too many times.
Damn, dude.
So it was just that old school mentality. Francis Benefato, Rich Gaspari. I mean,
Training video of you, old school training video. You guys training back together. Oh man, dude, how long were workouts back then, dude? Or these guys, everyone was training for 2 or 3 hours?
Yeah, we did train for 2 to 3 hours. We did take time between sets, but everybody it's such a basic philosophy to training back then. Heavy, for whatever rep range you're doing. It was that kind of concept. Wasn't a lot of supersets relative to drop sets. And it was just, everything was intense. Everything was a different era. It was grungy. It was ugly. It was a community. It was a friendship. Everybody supporting everybody, which was cool. Hey, you look good, man. My gosh, this would be great. Hey, do you need a push? You see somebody's doing something, you help them out, you spot them. It was a different mentality. It was a friendship mentality in the gyms.
Now, why do you think that is? Do you think because it wasn't oversaturated? Like now everybody has a cheat meal and a progress picture on Instagram, and it's a cool thing to do, which is awesome. The industry has to get bigger. The bigger this gets, it's good for everybody. But maybe because there was so few of you guys that when you guys saw each other, it's like you really shared that respect towards each other. But I have a question. Why do you think? Because Frank Zane told me the same thing. I sometimes fly out to see Frank, and he tells me he used to train for 3 hours with Arnold. Them two used to be training partners that train for 3 hours straight. So why is it that the guys in the golden era were training for 3 hours, but now everyone has this mentality of going in the gym for 1 hour and then getting out? What's your take on this? Because I'm conflicted. I can see the good and the bad in both.
I think they're trying to be smarter nowadays in some aspect. They're trying to incorporate the science behind it. Hey, your body can only last this long. I'm okay with that. There is, it's a tough one because you go to philosophy and then you go to the points of people talking about, well, I'm a keto kind of diet. I'm a vegan diet. And it's more than a diet to me. It seems like it's almost like, hey, I'm this kind of individual and I don't hang out with those kind of individuals. It's a weird thing. It's like, I'm a power lifter, so I can't hang out with a bodybuilder, or I do CrossFit and I don't believe in bodybuilders. So it's like, what happened to just everybody's health and fitness? And I think back then it was a real health and fitness. Everybody does it. Everybody does it. And everybody's cool with it. The time, I think everybody back then, everybody trained heavy. That was one thing. I don't remember even training with Francis Benefato. And if you look at his body and tell me that's not like the perfect classic physique body.
Crazy, bro.
Right?
Crazy.
It's an insane physique. And you would go, well, he's probably not a strong guy.
No way. He's strong.
Strong. And so I think we took a lot more rest back then. I still train that way today, but I take a lot of rest in between sets. I believe in having perfect sets relative to pump. I believe in tearing the fibers relative to filling it. And I think, again, my focus more is longevity and what's going to do that. Well, it's getting the body to adapt to the heaviest weight possible and allowing it to continuously move and have that range of motion.
Yeah, for sure, man. And longevity on your joints, on your tendons, your ligaments. I don't think that the 3 hours a day is conducive unless, you're not really crushing it for 3 hours. You're kind of going through the motion. I tell everybody the same thing. They say, hey, how long should my workouts be? And I tell them not to focus on the length of the workout, but the intensity of the workout. The intensity is the important part. Like even I'm doing like a few transformation challenges. So some people ask me, hey, what's a good amount of weight I should lose within the 6 weeks? Like, well, it all depends on how hard you're killing it. If, two people could have different results just based upon, their motivation, the way they're attacking the weight. But dude, man, I would love to be out there in California training Venice. I'm at Bev Francis. So sometimes I go to Steve and I'm, Steve, what's the craziest thing you've seen here? And he told me, he's like, yo, one time Ronnie Coleman came in here and he grabbed the heaviest dumbbells, they're 200 pounds. And we have a little strip that's about 100 meters. And he took these and he was doing walking lunges with 200 pounds in each hand for 100 meters and back all the way to the screen and back. I'm like, holy crap, man. Have you had any experience with Ronnie?
I did. Believe it or not, Ronnie and I both power lifted in ADFPA Federation back in the late 80s. And at that time, I was stronger than him.
Wow.
So, yeah, he's a second level human. And also, he reminds me of Christmas. Have you spent a lot of time with him?
Yeah, a lot of time. Not a lot of time, but I've seen him, you know, at mutual shows and stuff. You know, I see him on an airplane or at the airport. We'll always chat up a little bit.
Is he always happy?
He's always happy, dude.
Is that awesome?
Man, dude, he is incredible. He's such a nice guy. And I love all the interviews he does, too, because when people ask him, do you have any regrets? He's like, nah, man, we crazy. Like, dude, he's the best. No one's going to touch that record, man.
Nobody's going to touch the record. And then his personality itself is, and that's why he reminds me of Christmas, because Christmas, it seems like the world is happy on that day, kind of, you know, everybody's waking up. It's, hey, let's all be happy today, kind of a thing. And when I meet Ronnie and talk to him and sit down with him, or even back in the days before the society knew of him, he was always this guy. He was always happy. He was always like, this is fun, man. Let's do some heavy weights. This is great. Look what we do for a living.
That's sick, man.
It's just like, that's the kind of person I want to hang out with.
And he was a cop also when he was doing Olympia, which is awesome, bro. Because if that guy shows up at my house, if there's a domestic violence dispute or something, you know, I'm like, oh, dude, I ain't saying nothing, man. Dude, I guess that's before they started drug testing the police officers.
Jeez, he's monster, man.
Yo, so why?
Who's your favorite on stage?
Me?
Who's your favorite on stage?
My favorite on stage?
Ever.
Bodybuilding? Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman, Kevin LeBron, Flex Wheeler, I think just a beautiful physique, man. Those guys, dude. Frank Zane, I really like. I really grown like close to Frank. Arnold, all the guys, man. You know, even the new guys. I even love the new guys, man. You know, so like Rolly Winkler, I love that guy. That's another guy with a great personality, dude. You know, but
Sweetheart.
I miss seeing Phil and Kai on stage. I miss these guys. I remember actually I was in Pittsburgh and I saw you. You were sitting in the first row, and here we are, like everyone's posing for Jim Mannion, and you're like, "Fuck it, man!" You take off your clothes, you start posing, holding you. I'm like, "What the hell, bro?"
What's he doing?
Dude, I love it, dude. I love it, man. But yo, listen. Every time I turn on YouTube, I'm seeing you do these 25,000 calorie challenges, $10,000 challenges, bro. What in the world, man? Yo, if I did that, I would like my protein farts would kill my family. Like 10,000 calories, dude.
I can eat.
Dude, that's nuts, man.
I can eat. We can have fun, man. And my boys that I'm around, all these football players and stuff, man, these guys are savages. These guys, they're like the most elite metabolisms that you'll ever see. You know, first of all, to play at that level, you know that you're athletically just gifted and did the work to get there. But that's where I always go back to when it comes to nutrition. I always go back to these guys that are not doing the perfect bodybuilding diet, but still look like the bodybuilder. Mm-hmm. Because their metabolism is functioning so well. It's like that 15-year-old kid. Remember when we were 15, we could eat pizza and nothing happens?
Oh, yeah.
So these guys are like that, and they're eating donuts all day, and they're still walking around with abs.
Yeah. That's incredible. I also see guys who are genetically gifted, and then when you train with them, they have no idea what they're doing. Horrible form, like, you know, barely any strength. I'm like, how do you look like this? Like, if I could just tweak your work ethic a little bit or, you know, teach you proper form, like you'd be Mr. Olympia all day. You know, some people, they just don't realize. It's crazy. I mean, I think the majority of people in the gym, you know, everyone starts somewhere. So I never knock a guy for having bad form or something. I mean, in fact, talk about bad form. Look at all your videos, bro. You know, all the fans are probably like, dude, you're doing it wrong, man. In fact, I think I saw you squatting today, and I was going to comment like, hey, man, you're doing it wrong. You you're going too low. That's bad for your knees. But
it's a crazy because you hit on two subjects. You hit on one subject that basically talks about these guys that walk around and you're like, holy sheesh, you could be Mr. Olympia. And they have no idea how to eat and train. And there are so many, and I know that society doesn't see these guys a lot because they don't even realize it. I see it a lot because a lot of them are just these elite athletes, like you were talking about, that just go into the gym to work out one day and, hey, let's work biceps. All right. That's biceps. Oh, what am I supposed to do? And they just look like the craziest thing in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's guys like me that work out for 40 years and you go, you're genetically gifted. No, dude, I just train every day and diet every day for 40 years. I wish I know my boys say I'm genetically gifted, but I think it's just hard ass work every single day.
Oh, dude, forget about it, man. I've been training for 14 years. You've been training for 40. I cannot even imagine like another, 10 years on top of what I've been doing, what that could do. I mean, hell, even if you see, I saw a video of you and they were showing like you, like every year of your life, like starting at 9, 14, 17. And you could see that you're getting a couple percent better every year, gradually getting better and better. You're not going from here to here, which is amazing, man, and
yeah, there's
perspective.
There's no before and after shot of me. There's no, he was out of shape or he was a real thin guy. It was just continuous from 9 years old, slowly better throughout my whole life. And the strength is the same way. It's, I got strong and I got to a point and I just keep that strength.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, when it comes to health and fitness for me and for what I want to teach is, I want to teach these guys that they didn't peak in high school. They didn't peak in college. You get so many people, and you know this, you work with thousands of people, and you get these people that are 30 years old, and they say to you, and they look at you with these deer eyes, yeah, but I can't really get in shape anymore. And you're like, what are you talking about? You're 30.
Oh, my God.
I got bad knees, and I got this, and I got that. And I'm like,
yeah.
Stop that.
Yeah. Or they ask you, hey, Mike, is it too late to start?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Is it too late to start? Dude, get out of here, man. So I was speaking to Mona before this interview. I was like, Mona, tell me something that nobody knows about Mike. Like, what can I ask him? Because, there's a lot of interviews that ask you the same questions.
Yeah.
So she wanted me to ask you if you've ever gotten ripped off by somebody or someone. Did you ever get ripped off by someone, bro? What happened, man?
So I was that sweet kid when I got to California.
Oh, no.
I've actually never talked about this.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I got to California. Not even a couple weeks later, I battled for Gladiators back in the early 90s. And I got the TV show. And I got the endorsements from Weider. I also booked the romance books. So I was doing well. Yeah. And I put together a very nice collection of a nest egg. And I had a father figure down here that I met, that I was training. And he said to invest with him. Well, sooner or later, what happened was I collected or earned up to 7 figures at a very young age. And then he took it and split town.
Damn, dude.
Yeah. Dude. Now, you ready for the best story of everything? So you get $1 million stolen from you as a kid. And it's very crushing, and it did crush me. And my dad came down with cancer later on, and I was still kind of going through that little feel sorry for myself kind of attitude. And he goes, you're doing your dream, you're on TV, you're killing it still, you're doing all this stuff, and then you walk around dead from what happened. And he said the harshest thing, but the most real thing, and I never was sad about it again. He goes, I am actually dying, but you are dead. And I said, wow, it's, when your dad, and who's my hero at the time, was dying of cancer. And he said that, and I realized that I was walking around with this bad attitude and this chip on my shoulder because I got the $1 million stolen from me, which would break most people.
Yeah.
And he goes, it's not about the million. A powerful man or a rich man will make a million, lose it, and make it back. That's a real man. And so that changed my whole philosophy and my whole mentality at such a young age. I look back and I go, that's a great thing that it taught me.
Wow, dude.
I've gone one way with my personality and attitude. Like, look at me. I'm here. I'm in the TV shows. I'm doing all the romance books. I'm a millionaire. Arrogant. And that stops you. And the one thing I learned at that moment too is that life can humble you. And be appreciative of everything you got. I know people say that and it's annoying, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
Stay humble, because as great as you're doing, you could drop the next day.
Yeah. Look what's going on right now, Matt. The stock market was flourishing. The economy was doing great. Now everybody losing jobs. Unemployment's crazy. So I guess it forced you to level up. Like losing that, getting ripped off is like, you know what? I made it once. I can make it twice, 3, 4, 5 times. So damn, dude, that's crazy.
Oda called me out. Look at her. She did something good.
What about if you saw this guy one day? Like, what about if you're on a flight to like, I don't know, let's say the Olympics?
Dude, we searched for him. We did some private investigators looking for him and all that kind of stuff. But it sucked me away from everything that was great. And it had me going down that tunnel. Damn. And it could have, it sucks, but it really, and Mona has a great approach to money, coming from how she grew up. But it does humble you. It sets you straight and it shows you what's important. Like, yeah, you're right. I can make that back. Come back and I'll have a different attitude about it this time.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'll appreciate it more this time too. That's a huge thing.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Dude, well, on a more positive note, you were on a couple of my favorite shows, bro. Always Philadelphia, man. Tell me, dude, how'd you meet these guys like Danny DeVito? How were these guys in real life?
Cooler than you can imagine.
Oh, man.
They really are. They're cool. I can't say everything, but man, first of all, just doing the show itself, it was so fun. But to meet people like that, and that's the one great thing, is you got these guys like Bruce Willis was my idol. And then I got to California. My first movie was Death Becomes Her with Bruce Willis and Goldie Hawn and Meryl Streep. And I'm sitting there filming with them and I'm like, this is cool. And then we're eating and it was me and 3 buff guys that were in this one big scene through the movie. And Bruce Willis comes out and he goes, sheesh, I'm eating with you guys. I want to get some of that muscle. And you meet these guys like that, somebody that is so successful and they're just down to earth. It really shows you how cool life can be. But then filming with Danny DeVito and those guys, Danny is so cool. We were just talking about Arnold because they're great friends. And then just filming the show itself, it was a blast as an actor. You know, you go out there and we did our lines, we did our stuff, and then they come out and that show is so free. They go, all right, do whatever. I don't care. Just ab-lib. And just ab-libbing that day too. And it was a blast. And then we got done and Danny DeVito's like, all right, my room, let's go eat. So we just sat down and talked for hours after we were done filming.
Dude, then there's Workaholics, and then you're on one of my mom's favorite shows, Days of Our Lives.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this is not to kiss your ass or anything, but when I was younger, so the reason I got into weight training and you know, lifting weights in general was because at a young age, my dad split. So I didn't see him for a long time. So I turned on the TV, and who would I see on TV? I would see, like, you know, wrestling, and then I see American Gladiators, and you obviously on there, Jack Guy. I would see Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger. So it was guys like you at a young age that made me very impressionable. You know, I was like, wow, like this is what it means to be a man. Like, look at these guys. They look sick, you know? So obviously, you know, you get the muscles and you get all those things. And you realize that's not what makes you the man. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I use it very loosely, the man. Once you acquire the physique or the body, you realize, wow, there's so much more to this. You know, there is, like, that doesn't make you a man. What makes you a man is what you've been through. You know, getting robbed or stolen from, and then having the heart to carry on, or having to leave home at 20 and move to a different state all alone. Like, that's what makes you the man, bro. You know, be a good father, being a good influencer and a role model to the young guys. So my hat's off to you, bro. You really had a career that's amazing, and you're continuing. And I'll be honest, when I first started this whole fitness journey, when I first discovered you, somebody mentioned you and like, he's just some weird guy with his dogs. And then as I learned, as I started watching your videos and seeing you throughout the years, we see each other in the airport or at a show, really respectful. I'm like, yo, this guy's not a weird guy with the dogs. This guy is really the real deal. And dude, seriously, man, you know, so I
appreciate that, man.
Here, dude. And how is everything? How is being a father? How is being a father?
Wow, it is what everybody says it is. It is a pretty cool thing, man. I was like we were saying, I was the dog guy. I've always been kind of a lone wolf kind of a guy, and never thought I'd be a father, mostly because I come from a family of 10. So I'm kind of a individual that's very selfish with his time and stuff. And so I didn't think I was going to go that route. And then I meet this savage of a woman. And I said, wow, if anybody can handle this, she can. And so we have the 1-year-old Titan Maximus O'Hearn, who is a genetic freak.
He's jacked.
Believe him.
He's jacked, bro.
I forgot who was it. It was Stan Efford and goes, you know, 1-year-olds are not supposed to have shoulders and chest.
Yeah, dude. He's got cap deltoids.
Mona says those are hers. But it's the greatest thing, man. It is so fun. We get to, especially right now, we are utilizing this time and savoring it. Every day I go swimming with him, and that's my time with him. So to just see this little creature that I created is the coolest thing, and to see every little change and the possibility that my ceiling will basically be his ground, his foundation, his starting ground. And I'm just, as a father, now everything switched. And I know people say that again. I know it's a cliche kind of thing. I'm doing everything for the kid. But it really does turn to that way where everything we're doing now is the possibility to hand it over to him.
It's incredible, dude. It's incredible, dude. I wish my pops was you. I wish my pops lifted like you, bro. So that's what he's going to be able to accomplish. You know, having you as a dad at a young age, if he decides to start weight training or playing sports or whatever he decides. So that's awesome, bro. So Mike, listen, I could speak to you all day, man, but let's close it up. Where can people find you? Where can they reach out to you?
Anything Mike O'Hearn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Oh. Don't look for my dance moves, though. Don't look for my dance moves. But let's do this. We got some time here. I know we're all on lockdown over this next month. Let's jump back on and talk about training and not so much philosophy of training, but what you see seems to work. Because I think you're like me, that whatever training plan or nutrition plan somebody will stay with is probably the best for them. Mm-hmm. Let's go deeper and let's talk about, because what I love is that you're humble enough to see somebody else do something, an exercise, for example. You're intelligent enough to understand exercise and understand the method that I train, or the way I train today, by putting myself in a weak position, but use a intelligent weight, is to strengthen something. And let's go into depth on that kind of stuff for longevity, for the fans out there.
Absolutely, dude. Let's do it. We'll do it on your channel next.
I love it.
Great, dude. Mike, thank you, bro. You have a wonderful day, dude. We'll talk soon. Peace
Thanks,
out.
brother.